Only 3 ICU beds left in Weld County hospitals right now, but that's not stopping Republican county commissioners from thumbing their noses at state health leaders. With some hospitals near bursting, Colorado receives a new type of treatment meant to keep patients home. COVID can't keep holiday shopping down. While a lot of Colorado businesses see red, retail stores have something to celebrate this week, even if some of them don't know it. That's a dog of a different color. We had to know more about this family seen walking around Arvada. And finishing the week with your good news. Let's hope the at-home studio is feeling the good vibes. Internet willing, this is next.
The internet would not will Marshall's internet connection. I am Ryan Harrer filling in for Marshall, who is supposed to be filling in for Kyle. I have not read a vast majority of these scripts, so feel free to play stuttering anchor bingo at home. On the day we learned that Weld County hospitals only have 3 ICU beds left, Republican county commissioners and the Weld County sheriff say they will ignore the new level red restrictions brought on by the state. Governor Jared Polis announced today that in addition to reaching near capacity on ICU beds, Weld County is also out of regular hospital beds. A glance at the county's website would seem dispute that grim outlook. It says there are 43 ICU beds left in Weld County hospitals, but a look at the fine print shows only 2 of the 12 hospitals that data is being pulled from are actually in Weld County. The situation there and in hospitals around the state is getting worse, with more than a third of Colorado hospitals expecting staffing shortages in the next few weeks. Governor Polis says Colorado will have to solve its staffing issue on its own.
There are hot spots in the Midwest and the Dakotas, and then there are most states like Colorado where there are major outbreaks that are growing. We cannot count on, out-of-state nurses and medical staff helping.
1,564 people are currently hospitalized with COVID-19. That's up 64 from the day before. Last week, we had 1,159 patients hospitalized. Good news is 226 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. After it seemed to have plateaued this week, our positivity rate actually went down slightly today to 11.8%. Our 7-day average is now about 12.5. Governor Jared Polis said today that 1 in 49 Coloradans is contagious with COVID-19. Colorado added more than 5,100 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. We're now averaging more than 4,600 per day. Community testing sites around the city of Denver are pretty swamped right now. Demand is high, but the number of places you can go to get a test is low. It feels like we could really use that Ball Arena testing site right about now. Over the summer, the arena, formerly known as Pepsi Center, was home to the state's largest free testing site. But the site was shut down at the end of September as the city said it wanted to focus on smaller community testing. Denver's health director was asked if maybe the city had been too quick to shut down a place where thousands of Coloradans could get tested every day.
We knew that the Pepsi Center, when it was stood up, it was just standing in the gap. We needed to get testing going, get as many people tested as possible to get ahead of this. But we knew that we weren't reaching the most vulnerable people based on the data that we were collecting. I think it was absolutely the right move. We have 4 sites now set up in some of our most underserved communities.
Bob McDonald says he also expects the state to step in and help with testing. Another set of COVID-19 treatment has arrived in Colorado. In theory, monoclonal antibodies could help cut down the number of people admitted to the hospital. Theory is the key word. Right now, it's all hands on deck for some hospitals across the state trying to figure out how to safely use this medication. Here's Anusha Roy.
The name of this medication is a mouthful.
This is the toughest. Bamlanivimab.
Bamlanivimab.
The state received more than 3,000 doses of the monoclonal antibody therapy so far. Timing is key here. It's meant for people who test positive for COVID-19, people who are showing symptoms and could be at risk for complications but haven't been hospitalized. The hope is that the medication that is still being researched could prevent them from having to be admitted. Now, this is a treatment riddled with complications, like the fact that many hospitals are still working on plans to find a safe way to bring in contagious COVID patients to give them the infusion while protecting other patients and staff from the virus. Then you have to look at supplies. The state received 3,060 doses so far. We've seen more cases than that in a day. The state is distributing the doses and working with hospitals and infusion centers on developing an online system to identify patients. So the number of doses a hospital is going to get is going to depend on the number of COVID-19 cases they have and suspected cases. We talked to a couple of different doctors across different health systems about this. And Ryan, one thing that they said over and over again was that this is a treatment that is still being researched. And you kind of see that across the literature. And they wanted to remind people that they are still in the process of gathering as much data about this as possible.
So when they get all of that information, Anusha, what kind of plans are in place to help these patients when it comes?
Yeah, so we're talking about outpatient treatment, right, because of when you would use this medication. And as of yesterday, a lot of hospitals were still trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this safely? They're looking at everything from an outpatient facility that is completely separate from the hospital to even office spaces that could be transformed into infusion centers. You know, Ryan, ultimately what they really need to do is find a space that can keep people isolated because you are talking about contagious COVID-19 patients.
Sure. Anusha Roy, didn't expect to see you like this. Long time no see.
No, I didn't.
I'll take it anyway. Good to see you. Take care. Thanks.
Good to see you.
Larimer County jumped from level yellow to level red today as case counts continue to climb there, with more than 20 counties in Colorado seeing red or soon too on the state's restrictions dial. It means no in-person dining or bars and limited capacity at offices and gyms. There's one category of business being allowed more customers. Marshall Zellinger, who I really wish was here, has two business owners who had no idea.
Retail stores like Tallulah Jones on 17th and Park Ave have been working under strict customer limits.
We've been doing 5 customers in the store at a time.
Can I give you a little script, sweetheart?
We spray their hands with hand sanitizer beforehand.
That's the price of admission to get past the rope and inside to be one of 5, a capacity limit that's about to go up.
Well, I just learned from you that we can.
Under the previous level orange, which until today was the second highest restriction level, non-critical retail, like Tallulah Jones, was only allowed 25% capacity. Under the new level red, which is now the second highest restriction level, non-critical retail is allowed double, 50% capacity.
Now that it's getting colder, you know, having people wait out front and, you know, older customers, that's definitely been a concern of mine. So we're really excited to be able to have a few more people in the store.
I think it's wonderful news that we can be working off of 50%. That's going to help us a lot.
Sally Cashua owns 3 Timbuk Toys locations. The Aspen Grove store is in Arapahoe County. Her other 2 are in Denver.
A couple of nights ago, I stayed up very, very late studying all the government websites that I could come upon. From what my studies showed me, Denver was at 25% capacity. That
was the old dial. The new dial, with a 6th color, seems to be as easy to figure out as the types of toys she sells.
Well, if I were a Rubik's Cube genius, then the Rubik's Cube would be easier. I am not. Therefore, I think still the Rubik's Cube is more difficult.
So why can retail stores have more capacity when restaurants and other locations have fewer people allowed or none at all? State Public Health described it to me as leveling the playing field for retail stores that sell non-critical items, you know, like toy stores during the holidays.
That's very exciting to know that my industry has been thought about at that level of the government.
We're a toy store, but we also have an adult side with Christmas stuff and, you know, all kinds of holiday stuff. So really having increased capacity, this is our make or break it time.
So here's what Marshall learned this week. Rolling out a new program to the entire state is not easy. Perhaps this is why the new guidelines are announced and then put in place days later. One question Marshall had is, why not announce new restrictions and put them in place immediately? Well, here's why. Businesses, 3 days later, still aren't clear on what the new rules are, even after they've researched it. Next, viewers can sit down to Thanksgiving dinner knowing you helped others enjoy a good meal, too. Since Wednesday, you've raised $45,000 for the food bank at Denver Indian Center. This week and next, we are focusing on Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign on hunger in community as the 9 Cares Colorado Shares Food Drive does the same. If you can chip in $5 for the Denver Indian Center Food Bank, text THANKS to 303-871-1491 or find Word of Thanks wherever you find Next online. That nonprofit has had to cancel its traditional elders dinner this year, yet continues to meet the need in their community, which has increased by 400% during the pandemic. $45,000 raised and counting. Thank you.
From teaching constitutional law in Colorado to leveling accusations that the state's election was rigged without evidence, a former Next guest becomes one of the faces of President Trump's attempt to steal the election.
That's part of the job, taking the walk, is you never know what you're going to get.
One thing Amber Hines can probably count on is stairs. But when your dog looks like this, your afternoon strolls are going to draw some attention. Next.
Colorado, I'm not prepared. I don't know if you can notice. Colorado's election results have been spared President Trump's false claims of election rigging, mainly because he got smoked by double digits here and because our paper-based mail-in ballot system with backup audits is one of the best in America. But now a Coloradan on President Trump's legal team is claiming without evidence that local and state elections here were rigged. If you don't know Jenna Ellis, she's been on Next a few times. She used to be a law professor at Colorado Christian University. She's working with Rudy Giuliani to push unsubstantiated claims of election rigging and then get mad at journalists who ask to see evidence. In court, they generally don't make the election rigging claims. Lying in court has real consequences, and they have had dozens of other claims tossed by judges. Anyway, Ellis popped up on a local radio talk station yesterday, 630 KHOW, to make the unsupported claim that Colorado's local and state elections may have been rigged. She did not provide any evidence, and the radio host, trial lawyer Dan Kaplis, did not ask her to provide any evidence. May I make a recommendation? May Marshall make a recommendation? This is where we point you towards something, anything that isn't ours but is worth your time. The SARS outbreak in 2003 was a pivotal moment for the staff at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. After that, they began specifically preparing for new infections. The facility was the spot where airlifted Ebola patients were treated in 2014. Remember that? All that couldn't even prepare them for what they're seeing now. Ed Young's piece from The Atlantic looks at the pandemic through the perspective of the staff at one of the America's best prepared hospitals, and it's not a pretty sight. They know it's already too late to stop what they'll face in the coming weeks. Young writes that because of the lag time from infection to hospitalization, some of the people who get infected over Thanksgiving will struggle to enter packed hospitals by the middle of December and be in the ground by Christmas. That's a quote. It's a sobering read. We'll post a link on the Next Facebook page. It does sound like a good.
Early bird gets the worm. A beautiful start to the day. Look at that sunrise out in Longmont. Some changes, though, on the horizon as the weekend rolls in. Some snow starting to pile up in the high country. Right now, Central Mountains looking at the majority of that snowfall. And again, amounts are going to be pretty light as we head toward tomorrow. Tonight here in town, no wet weather to speak of. Mostly cloudy skies and temps falling into the mid-20s for us. Teens and low 20s up in the mountains. Futurecast taking us overnight into tomorrow morning. We'll wake up to a few clouds here in Denver. Snowfall continuing to stream in near the San Juans, Telluride, Durango, Pagosa Springs in the southeastern corner of the state, getting some much needed rain. Unfortunately, it really doesn't last long. Our skies clear by tomorrow afternoon and evening, and this takes us to 11 o'clock tomorrow night when that storm system is long gone. I told you snowfall amounts were going to be pretty light. Right now it looks like about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall stacking up from the San Juans up toward the I-70 mountain corridor. This storm system just sneaks into Colorado, primarily just bringing us those cooler temperatures. Daytime highs tomorrow, a couple of degrees cooler than today, about 53, with partly sunny skies. We'll stay in the 40s along the eastern plains, low 40s up in the mountains too. And looking at the 7-day forecast, nice, just gorgeous for the Broncos. Game day forecast on Sunday, 60s on Monday. Our next storm system arriving Tuesday with possibly an inch of snow early Tuesday morning here in the city. Another warm up Wednesday before Thanksgiving arrives. It looks fairly calm before that next system next Friday.
All right, Danielle, thank you. Absolutely gorgeous fall days this week. Marshall wrote into this script that he's always looking for ways to get yard work done faster. Well, I'm personally just looking for a way to have a yard. So while I'm jealous of Marshall, he says he's jealous that he didn't think of this life hack. Someone spotted this guy riding behind his self-propelled lawnmower on a skateboard. Izzy saw him in Littleton. Absolutely genius. He's going to get snapped up by Four Seasons Landscaping or something. Oh, see, now this is one of those things that Marshall puts in here and I didn't see coming. It's a total landmine. He's going to get snapped up by Four Seasons Landscaping or some other lawn care company with a national profile. My goodness.
It's a group that catches your eye. After all of the pictures you sent us, we knew there had to be a story there. Well, guess what?
People are always very, very surprised that there are horses around here.
They were gracious enough to share that story with us. Next.
A few Next viewers have spotted this family on 2 legs and 4 walking around Arvada. You were curious, but didn't want to be rude. We tracked down Amber Hines, and she was more than willing to tell us about her unique family dynamic.
I think that Arvada is such a wonderful community. And I used to ride my horse before I had the kids. You know, I rode when I was pregnant, and it's just a little bit too much to handle 2 kids and a horse on the side of the road. We walk, and it's good for all of us. We live in a beautiful state where, you know, it's very walkable for most of the year, and we take advantage of that. My daughter Abigail has been riding in the stroller and on Rosie's back for 2 years now. This is William. He is 6 weeks old, and he has been going on a walk for, well, as long as he's existed. I never stopped walking even when I was pregnant with him. So this is technically not his first rodeo. I think he likes it though. He slept the entire time. Rosie is an Arabian. She was given to me by a friend who saved her from a very bad situation. You know, Rosie is older, and it's good for her to be walking, getting her circulation going. It's good for me to be walking. We're guessing she's probably in her mid to late 20s, but no one really knows because she's a little bit of a mystery horse. She's fantastic on the side of the road. I trust her with my kids, obviously, and with myself. We've been working on building up her confidence, and I couldn't ask for a better horse to walk with.
Gonna have to add a horse logo to the pedestrian crossing sign. And why do I feel like that kid's gonna be riding before it's walking? You can count on seeing Amber, her kids, and her horse through the winter too. They're Coloradans. They walk outside all winter long. We share your good news and your feedback next. You think it'd be hard to find good news in a discouraging week, but we asked and you sent us a stack. Kyle found a few favorites.
Your good news sprang from likely and unlikely places this week. A kitten and a smile for April's chronically ill son. The sunrise at Bree's house. Liz's granddaughter, a book, and the FaceTime call that brought them together. Gail's son asking simply, "Can I sit down and enjoy the view for a minute?" Occupation day at Tripp's remote school. Wants to be a fighter pilot, like his dad. Lori's first baguette. Lisa's first shower after surgery. The memory of a dog loved and lost. Megan's daughter, learning she'll be a sister. 100 years. Zoom parties. New co-workers nicer than the old ones. JC's baby, giving her a hug for the first time. And Allie's baby, crushing remote learning and leukemia. A week of your good news. Good news indeed.
Cherish those moments, especially this year. Some quick feedback. You were all so kind to me, but this one, my favorite. Ryan was like a pitcher coming out of the bullpen with no warm-ups. Fantastic job. My coach never did let me start, and I never did that great when I got to fill in, so I appreciate this opportunity. See you next time, if the bosses agree.